After walking onto the stage of America's Got Talent as a school janitor from Indiana, Richard Goodall walked away with an unexpected victory that few had anticipated. Yet beneath the falling confetti, the roaring applause, and the viral fame that followed lay a reality far more heartbreaking and shocking than the performance that had made him famous. Once the season concluded, Richard made a decision that left fans stunned and prompted genuine questions about what had been unfolding behind the scenes. His rise had been deeply emotional, his journey unforgettable, and the truth he eventually confirmed was something no one had predicted. The question on everyone's mind became where Richard is today and what he is doing now, and the answer is genuinely surprising. The world discovered Richard Goodall in a manner he himself had never foreseen, through a simple and unassuming moment captured inside a middle school where he had spent most of his adult life working. In 2022, while finishing another ordinary day at West Vigo Middle School in Terre Haute, Richard began singing just as he always did when students were gathered. At that moment, someone pulled out a phone, recorded him performing Don't Stop Believin', and posted the video online with no idea of what would happen next. By the time he returned to work the following morning, his voice had already started to spread, first across TikTok and then through every social media platform that thrives on unexpected, authentic moments. People immediately began sharing the clip, and as the view count climbed, national media outlets took notice. News programs replayed the footage, comment sections filled with praise, and before long, talent scouts and television producers were paying attention as well. But amid all the noise, Richard was still waking up early, putting on his work shirt, and showing up at the same job he had held for more than 2 decades. What many did not realize was just how unfamiliar this kind of attention was for Richard. His life had been simple, steady, and deeply rooted in Indiana from the very beginning. Born in Indianapolis, he spent nearly all of his life in Terre Haute, building routines and finding fulfillment in the kinds of things most people overlook. At West Vigo Middle School, he was not merely the janitor. He was the person who greeted kids with a warm smile, made them laugh on rough days, and hummed or sang along to classic rock songs while cleaning the cafeteria. Students saw him every day, and over time, he became woven into the culture of the school. So when America's Got Talent reached out, the opportunity felt almost overwhelming. Richard had never been on an airplane before. He had never traveled across the country nor stepped into an environment filled with cameras, bright lights, and millions of viewers. In May 2024, he boarded a flight to Los Angeles for the first time in his life, carrying nothing but his voice, his nerves, and the support of a community that had been cheering him on since that first viral video. For most contestants on the show, the stage is part of a long journey they have spent years preparing for. But for Richard, it was a leap into a world he had only ever watched from a distance. When he walked onto that stage, his nervousness showed softly at first, then more clearly as he introduced himself. But the moment the music started, something familiar returned. His voice settled, his expression changed, and suddenly the shy janitor from Indiana filled the entire auditorium with a performance that felt both intimate and powerful. As he sang Don't Stop Believin', the judges leaned in, the audience rose to their feet, and Heidi Klum made the decision that would change everything for him. She reached for the golden buzzer, and as the confetti fell, Richard stood there stunned, emotional, and overwhelmed by a moment far bigger than anything he had ever imagined. From that point on, he treated the competition as the opportunity of a lifetime. Every performance became a way to honor the people who had supported him long before the cameras appeared. In the quarterfinals, he chose How Am I Supposed to Live Without You, dedicating it to his fiancée Angie and singing with a conviction that made the song feel personal even to those who did not know him. When he returned for the semifinals with Eye of the Tiger, he showed a completely different side of himself, a stronger and more energetic performance that proved he was not just a viral story, but a contender with range and presence. By the time he reached the finals, he knew deep inside that he was representing the people who helped him get there. In the finale, Richard circled back to the band that had unknowingly shaped this chapter of his life, performing faithfully and pouring every emotion and experience he had into the song. Shortly after, Richard Goodall was crowned the season 19 winner of America's Got Talent. The confetti, lights, and applause marked an emotional moment that felt even bigger than the show itself. This was not just a victory. It was a confirmation of every unseen effort and every moment when he kept singing even though no one in the industry was listening. But behind all that success lay something heartbreaking that explained why his performances carried so much heart. The world saw the win, but what they did not see were the wounds behind the voice. And that part of the story reveals even more about the man America fell in love with. Richard Goodall's rise may have looked sudden from the outside, but the truth is that he had been carrying years of disappointment long before America ever heard him sing a single note. He had tried before, auditioning for The Voice in hopes of a break or at least a chance to be seen, but nothing came of it, no callback or encouragement, just the kind of silence every artist knows too well. After that disappointment, he returned to his life the way most people do after a rejection, quietly and without complaint, determined to keep going. Music did not leave his life, but the dream of making it big felt like something he placed back on a shelf, hoping it might still matter someday. For a while, he found comfort in a small gospel band that gave him a reason to keep singing. They traveled, played together, and built something that felt steady. But when the pandemic hit, everything stopped overnight. Venues shut down, gatherings ended, and the band he had leaned on fell apart completely. It was not anybody's fault, but it left Richard with another empty space to navigate. Losing that band meant losing one of the few places where his voice felt understood, and he had to rebuild his confidence from scratch all over again. Yet nothing could have prepared Richard for the hardest chapter of them all. In 2021, Richard lost his first wife, Patricia Sue, to kidney cancer. She had been his partner through so many years, the person who encouraged him even when he doubted himself. Losing her changed everything. It went beyond grief. It was the sudden feeling of being unanchored. The routines they had built together were gone. The house felt different. The days felt longer. He showed up at work because that was who he was, but inside he was learning how to navigate a life he no longer recognized. That kind of loss does not disappear. You carry it. When he eventually returned to singing, you could hear that weight in his voice. After America's Got Talent, when life finally reached a high point, he was hit with yet another unexpected twist. The whirlwind of interviews, travel, rehearsals, and new responsibilities pushed him so hard that his body eventually forced him to slow down. He underwent hernia surgery in 2024, a procedure he needed but kept private for a while. Recovering from that surgery meant pulling back from everything he had been running toward, giving him time to think, to breathe, and to understand how drastically his life had changed in such a short period. Nobody expected Richard's next move, not the audience who voted for him, not the reporters waiting outside the studio, and not even some of the fans who had followed every step of his journey. After winning America's Got Talent, most people assumed he would trade in his janitor badge for a full-time music career. They pictured him signing contracts, moving to bigger cities, and leaving behind the life he had known for decades. But the moment the cameras stopped rolling, Richard made a decision that said far more about who he really is than any performance ever could. He chose to go back to work as a janitor at West Vigo Middle School, the same building he had left before the finale. When interviewers asked why, he did not make a dramatic statement or try to turn it into a grand lesson. He kept it simple, explaining that he planned to continue working at the school while new opportunities popped up and that he never expected to win in the first place. The whole experience still felt unreal to him. During the competition, he often said that America's Got Talent was anyone's game, and he meant it. He did not walk in thinking he was destined to take the title. He walked in hoping people would understand how much singing meant to him. Fame was not the dream, expression was. He wanted to share what he loved with people who might connect to it. And the show became the doorway that allowed that to happen. Richard actually liked where he worked. He liked the kids, the staff, and the structure of waking up and being part of a place that had shaped so much of his life. Even with a national platform behind him, he did not feel the need to run from the life he had before all the cameras arrived. Returning to the school grounded him in the routines that made sense, even as everything else around him changed. But staying grounded did not mean turning away from new experiences. After the competition, invitations began to roll in, and he welcomed each one with the same sincerity people had grown to love. He performed at an Indiana Pacers game, where thousands of fans heard his voice echo across the arena. Not long after, he took the stage at the Circle of Lights, a cherished holiday event in Indiana that drew crowds excited to see their hometown winner in person. He opened show for Howie Mandel, bringing his story full circle from contestant to colleague, and appeared at the Riverside Festival of Lights, another moment that helped introduce his voice to audiences who had only seen him through a screen before. His hometown embraced him in a way that made the first viral moment feel like only the beginning. He received a key to the city, an honor that showed how deeply people felt connected to his story. West Vigo Middle School held a pep rally in his honor, celebrating not just his win, but the way he carried himself through the entire journey. Students cheered for the man who had cheered for them for years, teachers cried, and families showed up to thank him for representing the community with such sincerity. Even as he celebrated these new experiences, Richard continued posting photos of himself doing the same work he had always done, cleaning classrooms, waxing floors, and getting ready for another school day. Balancing public recognition with everyday routine could have been overwhelming for someone else. But Richard did not treat the attention like a burden or a spotlight he needed to run toward. He treated it like an extension of his life, not a replacement for it. While music and performance became part of him in a larger way, he held on to the stability of his job while allowing the music world to open slowly and naturally, without forcing anything or rushing into deals he did not feel ready for. His debut single, Long Time Coming, was released on August 29, 2025, a date fans had marked on their calendars. He recorded the track in Nashville, a city that blends history with new beginnings, and the process gave him a chance to discover himself as an artist outside the competition stage. He joined a local group called Sugar Street, performing with them as he built his solo brand. And these smaller shows gave him the space to experiment and find his footing without the overwhelming pressure of national attention. By 2025, Richard confirmed that music was not just a chapter in his life, but the direction he intended to walk toward without turning back. He performed at the Vigo County YMCA Inspiration Gala, headlining with Long Time Coming and Don't Stop Believin', raising money for scholarships. He began thinking about retiring from the school, exploring a move to Florida with Angie, collaborating with Simon Cowell, and working on a full album. Yet he remains at West Vigo Middle School, still doing the work he has always done, stepping into new opportunities while keeping the job that supported him for most of his life. He is moving forward without pretending he has everything figured out, taking it one step at a time.